Okay, we're gonna do another one of these videos. Today, obviously on Monday of this week, I did this in the form of a Zoom meeting, but I thought this one was gonna take a little bit more to it. I thought it might go pretty long, so I thought if I did it as a video, I could probably keep it a little shorter and be a little bit more streamlined. So this is probably gonna be a series of at least two videos, and I might make it into three. We'll see how long these go. But let me jump into it. Today we're going to be hitting Langston Hughes, and we're going to be hitting the second part of Langston Hughes, which means we're going to be hitting two other of his poems. The poems are I Too and then The Weary Blues. Obviously on Monday, if you missed the Zoom meeting, the ones we covered then were Harlem and The Negro Speaks of Rivers. So this one is our first one, and this one should feel a little familiar to you, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. I Too by Langston Hughes. I, too, sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I, too, am America. It's a little weird on how these stanzas were done. That's how it should have been. So my pause there was accidental. But I too sing America. First of all, we get this idea, and I should have highlighted this too, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But this is the first spot that I'd like to. Oh, good. It's going to be slow. There we go. I too sing America. Too obviously means also. So the question is, who else is singing America? And hopefully you kind of remember this. It does go back to early this semester. But the person who also sings America is, of course, Walt Whitman. And we're going to come to this poem here shortly and kind of do a little bit of comparison. But first, let's stick with I too. So Walt Whitman sings America. So too does Langston Hughes. But as the darker brother, they send him to eat in the kitchen when company comes. He is the history we're ashamed of, or the part of us that we're ashamed of. That's what he's saying. That he's sent aside, much in the way that in many cases stories of like things like Downton Abbey and stuff like that. They talk about how the servants get sent away, or if you've even watched The Help, that not only has a socioeconomic but also a race and a gender aspect to the women, the black women generally that are the servant class in that movie or in that book are generally sent away. That they are the part that everyone knows is there, but nobody wants to have to pay attention to. Nobody wants to really face and acknowledge the fact that they're there and that they're often being treated poorly, being treated as lesser, which is definitely what we have here. But he speaks of a future. Tomorrow is not, of course, literally tomorrow, and I think we're probably all there without me saying that, but tomorrow is metaphorically just in the future, and he'll be strong enough that no one will dare say that to him because he's eat he's laughed and eaten well and grown strong up here. So now nobody's gonna dare say to that guy, get to the kitchen, because he's not gonna put up with it. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. And this is something that I think is this ties in nicely with the Harlem Renaissance as a whole. I think it fits nicely that this is part of, this is written in this time period, and we can talk about it in this context, and that's obviously for a reason. But this is an explosion of African American culture, of everything of all these art forms, jazz and blues and things like that we're going to get to soon. Much like oftentimes jazz is considered to be the one truly American art form, at least as far as music, that we can pass on to the world. And it doesn't come out of white America initially, it comes out of black America. So this type of beauty does exist there, and it's something that European American culture would not have produced without African American culture. And then we get to the last line, I too am America. And I like this as well. I didn't highlight it, although obviously I've got my notes over here, but I'm going to highlight the am here. And that's a big change because it's not I too sing America. Now it's I too am America. And before I would really focus on the two as I did above, but now I'm focusing on the am because this is about identity. This isn't about that he's he and his people have helped build America, that they've done all the things that Whitman talks about in that poem. This is also about the fact that this is their identity too. That this isn't something that, oh, now that slavery's over, we'll just send all the black people back to Africa, which was a very awful plan that some people in America had after the end of slavery, and even comes up more recently in history than that. Well, now that you're not working for us for free, get out because we don't want you here. And obviously, that's a pretty terrible thing to think. And this is Langston Hughes affirming that no, this is now our home too. That maybe generations ago, they were from Africa, but heck, generations ago, most of us that are white were from Europe. So this isn't our home in some native way either, any more than it is for them. So that is something that is kind of affirmed here by this last line, and I think the stronger verb of am kind of hits that. And that takes us right to Whitman. I'm not going to read the whole thing here, I'm going to leave it up there, but Walt Whitman's poem doesn't directly bring up race here, but we know that Walt Whitman was very anti-slavery. There's other things in his writings that show that he did grow up just playing with kids of all races, and that he grew up respecting all those people. So it seems like he's very anti-racist as well. So I don't think that his exclusion of race here is meant to exclude those people of color. It's more so just that Walt Whitman was just celebrating what makes America great, the people that actually do the physical labor that built America up, made us from a wilderness into what it is, and what it even was 150 years ago during Whitman's time. Hughes was a huge fan of Whitman's poetry and of him as a person, called him America's greatest poet, and said Leaves of Grass, his book, was the greatest expression of the real meaning of democracy. In fact, at the 100-year anniversary, this would have been when Langston Hughes was older, and this is definitely well after the Harlem Renaissance, he was asked to write a poem for a 100-year anniversary of edition of Leaves of Grass, and this is what he wrote. Old Walt Whitman went finding and seeking, finding less than sought, seeking more than found. Every detail minding of the seeking or the finding. Pleasured equally in seeking as in finding, each detail minding. Old Walt went seeking and finding. And it's such a simple and kind of almost silly sounding poem. It almost gets sing song with all the finding, seeking, finding less than sought, seeking more than found. Seeking as in finding, each detail minding, old Walt went seeking and finding. It just almost sounds sing song, but it really does get to how Walt Whitman saw the world, and kind of get this part at the bottom here that I think Hughes would have been a romantic if he had been born white, if he had been born in a culture that valued, or if he'd been born in a culture that valued all people based on race equally, rather than obviously diminishing those that are black. I think he would have been that. I think he would have been a romantic person, but I think it's probably hard to be a super optimistic romantic when the world tells you you're less because of your skin tone. So Whitman, as we've got here, finding and seeking. When you seek something, obviously, as I've got up here, almost synonyms, but not quite. To seek something is to go looking for it. Um, but finding it is actually the end of that. So he finds less than he sought. He always looks for the most out of things. He looks for he looks for more. He expects to find more than what's there. So he seeks more, but finds less. But what he finds, he still always finds pleasure in. That Whitman, other than a very few of his poems, like "Oh Captain, My Captain" is one that's darker comparatively, but almost all the rest of Whitman's poetry is incredibly optimistic, and that's what Langston Hughes seems to appreciate. Why he's building off of that with I 2. So that's the quick version of I 2. We're going to stop this video, and I'm going to jump in with the second one here in just a moment. So please go on over to the one on Weary Blues, which will be probably even longer, but that has a lot of really cool stuff in it because that one ties very much to music.